He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 10 of Son Coaches Podcast, and today I've got a North Florida legend in the making, Coach Brock Canaday. Met him last year at the FACA convention, and we hit it off immediately. It's actually his birthday today, and he told me that he has outlived Jesus and Keith Whitley, so he's on house money. So that gives you a little insight into his sense of humor. Coach, thanks for being on with us.
Hey, Coach, I appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, Coach, tell me how your career got started.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to work under my high school head football coach, Bobby Johns. And while I worked with him, I learned, he made me learn everything that assistant should know before you get to, per se, have any titles or real input. The whole doing of laundry, setting up pre-game and pre-practice, painting a field and cutting grass, things of that nature. Then I kind of followed him. He left Baker County. I followed him out to Milton for a short stint, and then we wound up in South Georgia, my first trip to South Georgia in Bacon County. And then a good buddy of mine, Jamie Rogers, that was with us, got the Suwannee County job, went down there with Jamie to be his DC at Suwannee. And then followed him to Baker County, back to our hometown, and then left Baker County for Cook County up in Georgia. And then I left and came back to Baker County to work for Kevin Mays. And then I left him after 2 years and took the head job in Dixie. And now, after 2 years, I've left Dixie and gotten a little closer to home at Bradford.
Well, that's awesome. What was South Georgia like for you, being a Florida guy? I mean, you grew up in Weewa, didn't you?
No, I'm from Baker County. I grew up in McClain, just a little south of Folkestone there.
Okay. So not far from the Georgia line, did you?
Right. And my dad's people were actually from Charlton. So, but South Georgia, especially as a young coach, when I was a younger coach, I was enamored by the facilities, the pay. It's just, growing up in the profession and being around some of the older guys that had been there and some of the guys that were shooting to be there, I learned to envy it, and still do in many ways. Me and Jamie Rogers both worked under Bobby Johns, and that's kind of when me and him Jamie and I worked really closely together over a span of, I don't know, probably nine years or so. And the whole time, that's what we talked about. If we ever got if he, I was a lot younger, I'm 10 years younger than him, so if he got the shot, that I'd make the jump with him. And Bacon was our first step there in South Georgia, and that's kind of where you got the full taste of field maintenance, paint, running every aspect of the program. You cutting your teeth 1A style. And then Cook was, when Jamie got the Cook job, that was a brand new facilities being built. In that particular year that I was there, all new facilities, and being in the region with Chris when Chris was really good. They played for the state championship that year, and just week in and week out seeing a well-coached product. And if they had athletes, it was even that much of a task to have on a Friday. Whereas my experience in Florida, you'll see some teams, and maybe they're not coached as well on one side of the ball or the other, or lacking in special teams, or you can have a chance as long as, because I've been blessed to be a part of, as I came up with, some really good staffs, and they've gotten a lot out of their kids over the years, and we've probably overachieved with some groups, whereas in Georgia the expectation should be, and I think always will be, you have all the things at your disposal, and now you produce. You better produce.
What was it like to? Because I know of Coach Johns. I've talked to him online a few times, but I've never actually met him. I just heard what a tough-nosed guy he is, an old-school guy is. What was it like going from playing for him to working for him?
The exact same. It was at times, even as a coach, you're like, hey, starting to be an adult here. What I missed, so when I got with Coach Johns, he had a really good staff. He really did. He had a guy named Jason Blair as an assistant. He's been in the South Georgia area for a while now, Thomasville, Pelham, and those areas. Great weight room guy, and he can coach just about anything. Hildrick Garrison, who actually took over at Bacon for him when he left as head coach. I think Coach Garrison, he's now an admin in Ware County. And then Jamie, who's been a head coach in Georgia and has had extreme success down here in Florida. And then a buddy of ours that was also my position coach when I played for all them guys. Josh Jacobson is up near Columbus as a head coach, and Chatco up there. So you had all those guys, a bunch of younger guys that worked hard and enjoyed being around one another. And then you had Bobby at the top of it, who was, he coached year-round intense. He's a big weight room guy. You're going to practice really physical. He prides himself on the run game and strong defense. And so you kind of, as a player, that's what we expected. That we obviously took on that mindset, and then as a coach, the weekend meetings, we met for a while on Saturdays, and then come in on Sundays. And Sundays was, you were there till you're done, no matter what. That's where I learned how to break down film under him. I still do it by hand, and then I transfer it to Huddle. I get made fun of all the time. I've been around a couple young guys now that do everything Huddle and make nice little fancy reports. I break it down by hand and do what I know how to do on Huddle, and then I let them kind of go make it clinic material.
That's right. Well, I'm sure you've got a story or two out of Alma or Adel.
Oh yeah.
Because there's some dudes in that area down there. The locals are a little different.
I loved my time in Bacon. When we'd gotten there, I think they'd only been to the playoffs maybe 4 times in school history up until that point. And those kids were just so hungry. They could, and Bobby he has an extreme weight room regimen. It's tough. It really is. It's that in practice, there's not a whole lot separating the two as far as time and what it takes out of a kid. But one of my favorite things when I start thinking about Bacon County, Alma, is all the field maintenance debacles we had there. And Bobby, if anyone's ever worked with Bobby, they know how anal he is about his field. Like, he's going to have Augusta greens, and nice paint. But we had one, I'll never forget, we had a buddy of ours from Baker County come up, just wanted to hang out with us after practice, and he's a big tractor fanatic and loved he loves that type of equipment. So we let him get on the real mower and mow the field. Well, I was over there trying to get the paint equipment ready, and I just so happened to look up, and he's supposed to be vertically cutting it. Now he's coming at like a weird angle, so I'm flagging him down, and he's got this thing wound in high gear. He's coming at me hard. And he's got this like pale ghost look on his face, and he finally turns the tractor down where I could talk to him. I said, "What's going on?" And he points at the front of the real mower, and he has somehow knocked off a hose, and it is leaking hydraulic fluid all up and down the doggone field.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now I said, "Hold tight." And so before... So he's standing there, he said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Hold tight." So I whip out my phone real quick, take a picture of him on the tractor, so I knew when it comes to get your tabs at, it wasn't going to be me if I had to. Needless to say, we had racetracks all up and down the field for that Friday night. It done burned up the grass, and Bobby was really good at chewing on coaches. And the guy wasn't a coach, he was just a friend, so needless to say, I still wore it in some fashion. He somehow managed to pawn that on me. And then we had a guy that had done that same season. We had a good paint machine, and it was still, we would mix our own paint, get the 5-gallon things of paint and mix it and all that good stuff. And assistant coach that we had with us, he's a great guy, great mind. I won't say his name and embarrass him, but he's not a very he hasn't done a whole lot of manual labor in his life, so gas, color of gas cans don't mean anything to him.
Right.
So he grabs a yellow gas can, or what he thinks is a gas can, and fills up the paint machine, and it's full of diesel. And so I walk it over there. He's like, "Hey, why won't this thing run?" I said, "Well, did you put gas in it?" He's like, "Yeah, there's the can over there." I said, "Hey, do me a favor. Go tell Coach Johns that something must be wrong with that gas. And I'll be over here doing something else." So, it was a wonder Bobby didn't fire everybody during those 2 times. And we got out there after all that, got everything fixed. I know they say the devil lives over there in Sparks, Georgia, but that's a lie. He resides right there in Alma behind that old school of theirs, because the hottest day I've ever been associated with took place in Alma, and the gnats were gnawing on us. It was mentally, see how mentally tough you were. And I actually had an assistant coach go down like faint. It was right there in the middle of summer camp or fall camp, so we'd been there all morning. And I guess the guy didn't eat and had taken a doggone energy drink for whatever reason. And we were out there doing field maintenance, and we just bought, God bless, Bobby bought us a field kit to drive the spikes in, so you could lay the lines there. And that guy looked over, he's folded up like a piece of paper over there, just like had to call the gosh dang ambulance to a coach. So needless to say, the kids just got an easy special team practice that second practice of the day.
Well, then you headed back to Florida.
Yep, went to Swanee with Jamie.
And how was that? How were the kids? I'm sure there's some interesting stories out of there too.
Yeah, Swanee's a great place. It really is. It is probably outside of some of the things.
Who's there now?
Kyler Hall.
That's right, Kyler's there.
Yeah, great guy. And the AD is a good buddy of mine, Frank Allen. There's some of the people over there that are in positions of power in the school system they're really good folks. And I'm still friends with a lot of them people today. But Swanee, it was all around as far as living, coaching, and being able to win. It was a great time. I really do miss that place. But one thing I learned quickly in Swanee was it was because Florida, you can start that your spring practice right there at the end of April, and most people get that Saturday. Go that first Saturday, you could practice for your third day in helmets, so you could start your processing, getting in uppers. Well, also during that time was the Swanee River Jam, and that is like a national holiday for them folks in Swanee County. Like at Christmas time, if you're a kid, you get Swanee River Jam tickets. And all it is, if you're not familiar with this, is a big outdoor country festival for like 4 days. And those folks, they start tailgating at 8 in the morning, and they don't shut it down till like 2 in the morning. It's an all-day affair. And so, my first year there with Jamie and all of them, and Thursday, Friday was good. And then here comes Saturday morning, and I keep getting on him about Saturday morning practices. Are you setting yourself up to get pissed off? So we roll around. Practice starts at 8. We got like half a team there on time anyway. So, he's starting to get upset. When they finally do show up, they all do show up, but the 50% that were late, they're hungover bad. They've had them a belly full, and we started running them, and I'll never forget. We had some really good football players that were young though, and one of them, so I could see the look in his eye, he was about to call it quits, and I just kind of went over there to him and said, "Hey man, you just stay over here with this group, blend out." He's a skill kid. I said, "You just kind of blend in with these offensive linemen. I'm surely we're about done. So you don't give up on us now." And then that day was just a fiasco. It was they had a compound fracture, and the kid, he just looked up. As soon as he looked up, fainted. Poor guy. And then that was a. In other words, in Swanee County, do not practice that first Saturday when the jam is in town. Just go ahead, do yourself a favor, call it a wash, and go on and see everybody on Monday.
Well, from everything I've heard from people outside of the facilities and the money, there ain't a heap of difference between North Florida and South Georgia. As far as like the people and the kids and
I've been lucky.
Football's important and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been lucky, and I prefer North Florida. I prefer rural areas really, because that's the kind of people I like to be around. And that's the kind of, and they normally have the mindset, blue collar, tough, hard-nosed style of football. Madison County for years has had that identity. Baker County's got it. Bradford has it. Even Dixie County, and place of Swanee. Those teams, those communities care. The kids, they embrace a physical style of football, and that's what I enjoy. So.
And then after Swanee, did you go? Was that when you went back to Georgia, or were you still?
No, so we were at Swanee. Let me get off script just a little bit. So my first time at Baker under Bobby, I'll never forget. We were coaching at Stark over in Bradford, where I'm now. The Bradford and Baker are huge rivals. So we're there, and I'm just kind of I'd go up top and help with offense and defensive line. I'd speak to those guys. That was basically my job, and counting 11 on special teams. So we got there, and then, tough game, going back and forth. We actually ended up pulling it off and getting a win, but right there, about 2 minutes left in the end zone, we're driving to go score. There's a doggone fight breaks out in the end zone there. And, Bobby, for whatever reason, he wouldn't ever calls attention to it. He's like, "Brock, who the hell's down there fighting?" I said, "I don't know." So the SRO that was up top with me, he radioed down there. He said, "Well, hell, Brock, it's your cousin down there." I had a cousin. She was a cheerleader at the time, and I guess she went to go get something from the doggone concession stand, and it was pretty much game over for Bradford. And even where we come from, football's real passionate, like most places, and I guess words were exchanged. May or may not have been a boy involved, and next thing you know, you got a Donnybrook down there in the doggone end zone.
Girl fight.
Yeah, that all out war. And she's tough. She's a tough old gal. And so my cousin for about 15 minutes, got placed in handcuffs in Bradford County. So that's one of her claims to fame.
That's fantastic.
And so going back to the end, I tell that story to say this. So at the end of my stint in Swanee, me and Jamie are both from Baker County. And so at the end of our last season there, we're still in the playoffs. Baker didn't make it. We had some folks from our hometown reach out and say, hey, there's going to be a change, and we're going to bring y'all home. And so immediately, this is kind of the folks that I'm related to and have raised me. I got to take these kind of measures. So once me and Jamie, we're roommates at the time, we had that discussion. He's like, are you in? I said, absolutely. So I said, but I've got to call my family and let them know. I'll tell them not to say anything, but I've got to let them know to be on their best behavior. So I have a little brother at this time. My youngest brother's playing at JV for Baker County. And so my mom's a great woman, sweet woman. Matter of fact, we just had my birthday dinner last night, and she picked up the tab, God bless her. But I call her and I say, hey, it's been a little while, because at this time I think I've been gone on the road for probably 8 years or so. And that means, not coming home unless it's Thanksgiving after practice, hopefully, and then, Christmas break, and then a little bit during summer. But anyway, get back to the story. I called her and said, hey, I need you to be on your best behavior. We're going to come home. It's been a while. I'm excited. I know you will be. She said, oh, yeah, I'm good. All right, so fast forward it's maybe a week later, maybe 2 weeks at the most. It's nothing. She goes to a JV game to watch my brother play. And I'm coaching, JV too for Swanee. We had to do both JV and varsity. But anyway, at the end of the JV game, because I'm big about not having my cell phone with me, from stretch to end of the game. And I finally get back to my phone. I got like 72 missed calls and text messages from I was really good buddies with the sheriff and undersheriff at the time in Baker County. And that's from them. I said, this cannot be good. So immediately, the text just says, hey, when you get a second, call me. It's urgent. So I was like, Jesus, I hope someone's, I hope everything's okay. I hope no one's dead. They're not over there scraping one of my relatives off the highway. So I call him, and he talks. He's, a good old boy. He says, cuz, what you got going on? I said, well, just finished up JV game. What's going on, Gerald? He says, have you talked to your mama? I said, no, but what in the hell has she done? He says, well, she was at the ball game tonight. I said, yeah, my brother's playing over there. He said, well, apparently there was a woman in front of her that was, talking bad about the team. And he said, you sure you haven't talked to your mom? I said, I have not. He said, well, the story that she gave me was that she told her 3 times to shut her mouth, and that's not the word she used, but, I'm going to dance around that. And I guess the woman said, who the hell are you? And my mom's got a bad back. And so she carries a stadium chair to every stadium she sits in. And it's a good one, too. It's well built. And I guess she grabbed that woman by the back of the head and just started dusting her head off with it. So there was a ruckus up there in the stands. They got the deputies going up there. My good buddy was the assistant principal at the time. He's up there. And then, once they get them broke apart, and, they, for a little bit, they put her in, cuffs and walk her to the gate. And then my buddy, he says, hey, we're going to turn you loose, but we're going to have to walk you out the back gate so no one sees. Just good old boy. I mean, he's looking out for me. We're good friends. And so anyways, I get off the phone with him, I immediately call her, and I just, start interrogating her about the game the night before, that night. I said, hey, how Bill play? She's like, oh, he played well, I said, what was the score? And, she couldn't tell me the score. I said, well, did you stay for the whole game? And, she started reeling. I said, no, don't lie. I said, I'm going to treat you like you used to treat me. Don't lie, I already know the truth. So, see, I got to feed her a little bit of her own medicine at that point in time. I mean, it's the same woman. We, not to spend too much time on her, but she is a unique character. We, her and I, I'm the oldest of three, and she was a single mom for a while with me, and we lived in some government housing there in the county, and I was the only white kid in the, the little area we lived in, the apartment complex. And one Christmas, I got a brand new bike. I'll never forget it. And that bike went missing one day. And so she's like, where's your bike at? I said, I don't know. I ain't got a clue, And at the time, I'm probably 5, 6 years old, something like that. I'm not very old. She says, well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go out and walk all around this neighborhood, and if it's not here, you're going to continue to walk till you find it. And she said, I said, well, what if I can't find it? She said, well, you're going to find it, and when you find the person that has your bike, you're not going to ask any questions. You're just going to tie into them. And if you don't, I'm going to tie into you. So, that's kind of, that was a good raising, in my opinion, by a single mom that I appreciate. She molded a young offense lineman and didn't know it.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Which brings me to my favorite stories you were telling us about a young man named Tomcat.
Oh, yes. Yes, so Tomcat,
The Adventures of Tomcat.
He's a great human being. I come across Tomcat when I came back to Baker County with Jamie. We just made a state championship run, and I probably was down a few pounds, so I was looking pretty good, and got to know this beautiful woman from Baker County who's got 3 kids, and at the time I'm 28, I think, and so long story short, I started dating this lady, and she's got 3 youngins, and the youngest one is Tomcat. That's who I refer to as Tomcat, and so he's 5 years old at the time, and this family, her family, her and the boys, they're baseball people. So now you got this 28-year-old, pretty brash football coach coming around, and now all of a sudden, Tomcat not only wants to be a baseball player, but he wants to try his hand at football. And this kid is a great athlete, wonderful athlete, and. But nobody in that family has ever really been football oriented. They just looked at it as a hobby, and it's a little different than most sports, in my opinion. But anyway, so we've had a lot go on with Tomcat. I know one of my favorite stories, though. So I moved in with them, and Tomcat wanted to. For whatever reason, he got in his mind he wanted to start a little chicken coop. So we went and got some chickens, about 4 hens and a little old rooster. And we started off with 4 hens and a little rooster. And it was rocking on good. You'd go out there and feed them and water them. And the rooster, the only thing I hated about it, that damn thing would crow at the crack of dawn, whether it was my day to work or day off. So, but anyway, they had a friend that they told, he went and told that he had some chickens. Well, apparently they had a rooster that they wanted to get rid of. Well, they didn't run this by me, and I'm by no share a farmer but I do know 2 roosters don't work. But they kept this from me. But anyway, I was laying in bed, and they come, it's got to be like 5 in the morning. and come wake me up. And he's got tears in his eyes. I thought, what? I'm thinking, what the heck is wrong? And he's like, Coach Brock, the roosters are out there. That big one keeps laying on the, I forget what he named the one he had. But anyway, he's laying on our little one. He won't get up. I said, well, at first it didn't register. I thought, he meant a hen. And I didn't feel like explaining to him what was taking place there. I mean, he's 5 years old. So I kind of got my, wore off the grogginess a little bit. I said, what now? Explain to me what's going on. He said, the big one's on top of the little one. So I went out there and looked. I said, look, man, only the strong survive in this world, and whoever brought that second rooster didn't know that, and needless to say, your little rooster wasn't that damn strong. So, the poor kid was traumatized, and I say that story because he finally comes at football practice. He gets his first football practice, which I wasn't a huge fan of because he's so small, young kid. They had him out there pushing cars for hours and, doing crazy stuff, just crazy stuff. Well, old Tomcat, he was kind of mild-mannered, he was still trying to figure out this football stuff to see if he liked it. And so there was a kid on his team that did like it. He was, about football, loved contact as a young kid, pretty superior. He was a striker, was what I call him. He'll strike you. And so after practice one day, they were roughhousing around, and he was throwing little Tomcat around, and Tomcat, and he's never been in a fight in his life, and neither is anyone in his family. So I got him over there to the truck away from his mom and brothers and everybody. I said, hey, this is what you're going to do. Tomorrow, at the next practice, right before practice, we're not going to wait till after. I said, as soon as he's bending over to take care of his cleats, that's when you get him. You got to pounce on him. And that's where I started calling him Tomcat. I said, and you got to be a Tomcat. Like, you got to fight like you're the third champ on Noah's Ark and it's starting to rain. You got to go. I said, and the good thing is, it's only going to last for about 20 seconds, and parents are going to come get you. You'll be okay. And needless to say, I told an ass chewing from his mama once that came out that
put Tomcat up too.
Yeah, because he folded. You don't want to rob a bank with Tomcat, because she said, where'd that come from? And she said, well, Coach Brock said it'd be okay. And I said, oh, no, that's not exactly what I said. Well,
Tomcat was scared though.
No, he is since. I get reminded every now and then of now Tomcat. He's not so scared to take up for himself. So, and he's quick. So that's going to be bad news for some folks down the line.
He'll make him
a better ball player.
Yeah.
Regardless of which sport he decides.
Oh yeah, no, he's a good little athlete, and apparently he's got great hand-eye coordination. So. He said, I went to grab him and he kept slipping out of my arms. I said, yeah, we call that a 3-day-old mullet. You ain't going to hug that. You got to hit it.
Oh man, old Tomcat. When you first started telling us about that, dude.
Coach, I got so many stories. I got so many stories about that kind of stuff. But I'm getting old, as we pointed out. I got to be led in the direction of what story people are referring to, and some that may or may not get me in trouble to this day. So I skip around a few.
Yeah. Old Tomcat. That joker right there sounded like he was a hot mess.
Yes. Oh yeah. He got to where he was really good at telling white lies, and deep down inside, I wish I was that good. But yeah, he's a character now. He's got a lot going in his direction.
So when did you get your first head coaching job?
2 years ago, I took the Dixie County job, and that, when I saw you at the clinic and you spoke on, so you think you're ready to be a head coach, that's a very accurate. Like a lot of guys, especially a lot of young guys, need to go and be, have that presented to them in some form or fashion. I'm a firm believer, just like teachers now, I may take some flack on this, but I'm an early education major, early childhood education. I think if you're going to get in public school education, you got to do at least a semester in some fashion in elementary. If you could survive elementary, you could do anything. And so I also feel the same way about coaching. I think if you can survive and coach in 1A, you can survive and coach anywhere.
Agreed.
Because the one thing about 1A, and Dixie County's 1A, that's a school, they're 8 through 12, school population 500, and your field maintenance, your laundry, your borderline guidance counselor, you're everything. And Alma's probably, when I was in Alma, Bacon County, Georgia there, that's probably where I learned the most as to what it truly means to be a high school football coach. Because, I've been around my fair share of guys getting into the business. I've even hired a few when I was a head coach. They just don't know, and you got to take time and teach them. I come, like we touched on earlier, I came from the hard knocks of, school of hard knocks with Bobby Johns, and where I learned it. I was still the film guy. I went and traded film on Saturday mornings for Bobby, and had to have my grades in and all that before I left. Things of that nature that, I think some guys don't have a clue on, and I don't want to sound like I'm being negative. It's just, they think, most people think you show up to practice, have practice, and then roll out the balls on Friday, and there's so much more that goes into it.
Correct.
So,
yeah, like I said the other day, X's and O's, you train a goat to do that.
Yeah.
That ain't hard. And really, putting together a practice plan. If you write a lesson plan, you can put together a practice plan.
Yeah.
That's not hard. It's dealing with all the other stuff.
Yes.
That you don't really know until you experience it. And that's why, I'm not anti young guys being a head coach at all. I just want them to know what they're getting into before they go do it.
Yes.
So they don't come to the clinic and look at me and you crazy like, hey man, you hiring? Because I got to get out of here.
Yeah. No, what you say is 100% true. And, another thing about coaching in 1A football, you learn to be creative when it comes to building depth. Like, you're going to be on your toes. You're going to lose someone at some time, and you may be playing with a guard that's 165 pounds, depending upon the situation.
Right.
That obviously that's not ideal. He doesn't look like Michael Ward, but on a roster of, 28 kids, it is what it is.
Well, I think at the lower levels, you have to coach.
Yeah.
And you have to coach them all.
Yeah, I was interviewing.
Just run out there with, I got dudes.
Yeah. I was.
You got 30.
Yeah.
All them, you're going to need all them 30.
When I was interviewing guys for my offensive coordinator position over in Dixie, I had a guy that flat out said in his interview that he didn't want to coach anything on defense. I said, well, then you can't coach here, because I coach offense, defense, and special teams, and even tell them how to clean the locker, because, that's what you're going to have to do, There's no such thing as one-way 1A football coaches, or at least in my opinion.
See a young dude?
Yeah.
I don't understand the I don't want a mentality.
You don't want a job then.
Yeah, must not want to eat.
Yeah, no.
Must never been hungry.
Yeah, I'll never forget when I first time. Now you know me, I'm well built. I got a great physique. I'll never forget when I had to coach DBs. So could you imagine me teaching back pedal, opening your hip, taking angles, and then breaking window, the hand window with your hands and stuff?
What'd you play in high school, Coach?
Offensive tackle. I was far from. What is it?
A down block.
Oh yeah, down block, and I was a veer wing T system, so there's a lot of down block. Every now and then we'd get fancy and turn out.
Yeah, you got to do it all. And y'all had a good season this year.
Yeah, we were, my first year we went 2-8, and just, it was brutal. Played with a bunch of young kids, which, in hindsight, if you could keep them believing, they got a lot of experience. And then this past year, we finished 7-4, lost first round of playoffs to a well-skilled Pahokee team. But my first year in Dixie, I take the job, I'm like, heck, if they put me on the right NFL squad, I'm going to win a Super Bowl. That's how good I am. So I get that job, and then, on my schedule, I got Andrew Thomas over there at Union. He's won a couple state championships, really good football coach with a good football team. And then Coach Robbie Pruitt gets hired down there at Williston. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, this is going to be interesting. And I just, long story short, I ended up playing 2 Final Four teams that year and all this and that. And I'll never forget, I took the job, and they was like, Coach, you're going to win 5 games this first year, easy. And they was talking about Williston. They said, we beat Williston like 25 years in a row. They can't beat us. So I went and scouted them in the spring. Coach Pruitt just got there, and they weren't very good. I said, well, maybe they're right. So I go back in the fall and watch them in the Classic game there against Taylor County. And I came back, I said, boys, I hate to tell you something, but I'm probably going to be that guy they want to run out of town, because I don't think we're getting to 26 in a row. I'm just saying. And so, long story short, we get in the middle of that game. I got a old linebacker. He's a rail. He doesn't look like a football player, but he was pretty hard-nosed. But anyway, he's country, always country. He says, hey, Coach, and he's doing it with his hands, his fingers, and he's forming an X. He said, what's it mean when the guards go like that? I said, his name was Jake. I said, Jake, they're not going like that, but they are fast, aren't they? He said, Coach, I can't even see them. I just said, don't worry about it. We'll get through this one. So,
just try not to get hurt.
Yeah. Well, later that kid graduated. He come to me, he says, Coach, you could have said a lot of things when I asked you that question, but you avoided the inevitable. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I thought you would have said, Jake, it don't make it, dang. We're gonna get it. We're gonna tote this one anyway. Just keep running.
Sometimes it be that way.
Yeah. That wasn't fun looking over there, because Coach Pruitt obviously does a really good job. And at that year, my first year, it was really me and one guy. Had a bunch of assistants, a volunteer. I say a bunch. I had like 3 other volunteers that, you never know. They got jobs and families, So.
Right. It's just hard without help.
Yeah, my highest supplement that I could give assistant coach there was $1,800. So trying to.
Yeah, when y'all got talking to me last year at the clinic, I don't know how y'all eat, and I understand now why y'all come to Georgia.
Yeah.
Because the money is so much better.
Yeah.
And you guys obviously are used to dealing with talent, and you're used to having to do more with less, facilities wise.
Right.
And so. Y'all can sit in an interview and say, well, that doesn't really bother me. I don't need that. I don't need that.
Yeah, some things that might would have.
Our guys.
Yeah. Some guys that might would scoff at certain things. You're right. Like some of the guys that I work with when I've taken them, because when I was the head coach over in Dixie, I'd take some of those guys around and tour like a cook, or, coffee, and show them places and how they operate, and their minds are blown, But
Y'all are, your state's like the Wild Wild West now. Y'all let kids go wherever they want to go, whenever they want to go. And
it is
another
crazy.
reason you like rural better.
Yeah, well, rural, yes, I do like rural, but rural isn't exempt from that either. You know, our state champion in 1A this year, Hawthorne, and I'm not speaking ill of them at all. I mean, they benefited from what the state's allowed. You know, they got some kids that transferred in that really helped them, you know, and they go from struggling to field a team in the spring to being, you know, the number one team to beat in the fall. You know, it's just kind of it's the animal. I don't really appreciate what's happened because it's changed, you know, it's changed the way you handle things as a coach, I think, if you want to, you know, be relevant as far as keeping players and a program rolling. I mean, obviously you have your core values and you stick to them, but certain things that when I first got into the profession that wasn't been tolerated, now it's kind of a run-of-the-mill thing, you know. And now NIL, who knows what. I will say this, I'm not a big fan of Florida. I'm the only idiot that I know of that will willingly leave Georgia, you know, lose $25,000, you know, a year and move back to Florida. But Georgia does it right. I hope one day Florida will get on board. And the good thing is I still got a couple years left up there in Georgia, so if I make the hop, I guess I could pick it back up.
Absolutely. So how are things? I know you had to get closer to family. Left Dixie and back at Bradford with Coach Rogers.
Yeah.
You're probably looking forward to being reunited.
Yeah, it's, you know, outside of being, you know, friends in the profession, you know, we're actually friends, you know, away from it. One thing that I've missed is being around a collective group of guys that actually have that camaraderie. You know, after the game or practice, you know, you're around the field house. Once you get done with your duties and whatever it is you need to do, you know, have some discussion, whether it be about the program or the kids or completely different, you know, about, you know, it's 50-cent wings at Downtown Grill, y'all want to go. You know, that's a breath of fresh air for me. That's one thing I love the most about coaching is, you know, at 35 I've made 8 stops. Now this is my 9th stop. And I don't regret one of them, you know, is meeting all the different people and the relationships and connections you made, you know, and experiences. But being back here with Coach Rogers and the staff, he's got the staff reminds me very much of the one that Bobby had put together at Baker. They're all around the same age, you know, all of us are around the same age. We all like to work hard as far as the profession goes and enjoy one another's company. And that makes it a little different coming to work every day, you know. And not to mention they got really good football players here.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, that you know, going from, because when we were in Dixie, I hired a guy that knew how to run single wing and wing T and I, and that's what we were. Now we can kind of go back to, which if the ball's in the air, you know, I'm a little sad. I like running the football and pounding on people. But now I'm with this bunch here, and they got some kids that we can spread it around and play a little bit of basketball on grass if need be. So.
That's cool, man. Well, I sure do appreciate you coming on, and I have enjoyed it. Definitely try to get you back on down the road. Here's some more Tomcat stories.
Yeah, Tomcat. I guess he's got new colors now. He's kind of like me in the fact that he loves bright colors like neon green, orange, and stuff. So he's donning some orange and black these days. So he's flaunting it. And so.
Good. Maybe you can scrounge some PG-rated Tomcat stories for us.
Well, I'm sure I'll have some put together by the time we get there down there in Orlando.
Well, that's awesome, man. I can't wait to see you, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's going to be hard for me to follow up the guys you had on before me, but I enjoyed it. It was kind of like a bucket list thing of mine when you were talking about this deal, and I wish you the best, and I can't wait to see you down there in Orlando.
Well, I sure appreciate it, Coach.
All right, Doctor.
All right.
Yes, sir.